Good morning. Yes, that is so not my usual greeting to you all, but I'm changing it up a little bit for this particular episode. So, as you know, we're recording this episode in the morning. So, good morning to everybody. Greetings to you. And I am so excited that you are tuning into another episode of the Titus II Living podcast. I am your host, Joy Ellerby, and we are doing the June financial check-in with none other than my continual and repeated guest. You know she is a favorite on this podcast, along with Overseer Thomas A. Pulliam Sr., but we have Dr. GMP with us again. We are going to dive into some more topics, but we're going to revisit travel, and we want to do a little check-in with your budgeting. So let's go ahead and get started. Dr. GMP, tell everybody how you're doing today.
I am doing well. We had a powerful service at Heaven's Harvest Ministries yesterday, and it is spilled over into today. So we just wafting in it.
Yes, that's one way to put it. This, we are lingering in the residue. Yes. Yes, indeed. It's something when you are on the day after of a powerful service, and you just get to think about how good God is. So we are excited about all that God is doing in this particular season. It is a different season. I don't care what anybody says. It's a different season right about now. It feels different. Things are different, and it's there is a necessary move for change within our hearts, our minds, our spirits, and our bodies, and all of that. So, speaking of change and new season, let's talk about. I'm just going to go in the direction where the Holy Ghost leads. Talk about the importance of making that change from winging it to planning it. Let's just talk about the necessity of making the change, because I get it. People want to wing it with their budgets. They want to wing it with their travel. I get it. Spontaneity is exciting. Yes, but there has to be some planning and preparation. So let's go ahead and start there. What do you think about that?
I agree. It is very, very necessary. Spontaneous keeps things interesting, but continuous spontaneity keeps you off balance. So the key to a healthy life and a healthy spiritual life is to have balance more than you have imbalance. And so I recommend highly doing the budget, doing the planning, doing the travel. Just write it down and make it plain. Like it's nothing, you can't beat having a plan. And then if something changes, then you can pivot. But if you don't have a starting point, you don't know where you're at.
And it's something that, to your point of having a starting point, what about individuals that say, well, I don't know where to start when it comes to, let's deal with travel. If I have a big trip that I want to take with either family, friends, or even just myself, where do I start?
You start with where do you want to go and how much is it going to cost you? If you don't know where you want to go, you deal with the time frame. How much time do you have? If you only have a weekend, obviously you're not going to do an international travel. You can't say you want to go to Spain over a weekend because you spend your whole time on the flight. That doesn't make any sense. So start with where you want to go, how much time you have to spend, and how much it's going to cost you. And once you have those key three things identified, then you can plan other things. Okay, if I have a weekend, I want to be in the car for an hour. So what can I do within an hour of me? You go to Google Maps, you put in where you are, you go out an hour or however many miles and see what's in that area. And so what do you want to do? You want to get there, so there's gas. You want to eat when you get there. There's food. So you find out what restaurants are there. You look at the menu. Most of them have prices. If they don't have prices, a good baseline is if you have a menu that doesn't have prices, the minimum price for that meal without drinks or tips is going to be $50 to $75. But most of us, we like to see prices on there. So pick a restaurant that has a price. That way you don't have to guess. But you typically want to stick to places that are very clearly labeled. The mission and the business purpose of the business is very clear. And then the cost is laid out. And don't be afraid to call them. If you have a question about anything, parking, if you can't tell from the map if there's actual parking, call them up, ask them what the parking situation is. If they validate, some places that are like downtown or in like a main area, they do validation parking for 2 hours free. But you have to park in specific lots. And if you don't know that ahead of time, that could be a little frustrating because then you'd have to drive further trying to get a deal for free parking or metered parking, and you'd have to walk longer, and it kind of messes up your time frame.
And one thing there are a couple of things actually that hit my heart while you were talking. One being just from all that you explained, and then I want you to cover this area. Talk to everybody about the moment where they may feel overwhelmed with all of the details that come into planning for travel.
So the that's too much, people, is if you are traveling with someone, get that person involved into the process. That way you can divide and conquer. They can look at restaurants, you can look at travel, how you're getting there, that kind of thing. Always the second recommendation is pen and paper. So if your mind is going faster than what you're working on, get a piece of paper, write down number one, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to look at this day. Give yourself time. If you're a person that gets overwhelmed easily, don't wake up Friday morning thinking that you're going to plan a weekend trip. That type of spontaneity is not going to work for you. You need a week or two in a couple days because you want to do, if it's 10 steps to the planning, you need to tackle 1 through 5 on one day, take a break, regroup, get a cup of coffee, get some tea, take a bath. Then on the next day, tackle the other 5. So, don't overwhelm yourself because vacations and time off should be relaxing. If it's too stressful, then somewhere along the way, you did not plan properly or give yourself time. Because easily things happen, right? You're on a road trip, you're going out of town, a bridge is out, there's construction, you get detoured. We have Google Maps, which is great. We have GPSs and navigation systems in our cars and on our phones, which is wonderful as long as the satellites and the internet is up. Back in the day when I first started traveling, I had a map. I had a map in a book. And you had to pull over because by the time you unwrapped the book, it took over your whole dashboard. So you had to have a marker and a pen and paper and a navigation person next to you help look at those little numbers and the little lines.
Oh, the memories. Go down this memory lane. Go.
So that's where a lot of my tips come from, because you can't always pull over and deal with all of that trucking map navigation situation as a single person. So we thank God for Google and Google Maps and all the navigation systems that are out there. And that's wonderful. But again, you do have to have a backup plan because you can get to a remote area. And I've gone to national parks and waterfalls and other parks where it's remote, and you get to a place and your GPS is like, hey, you're here, but you're not here. Mm-hmm. So we're going to guide you as best we can, but understand the navigational system is no longer working.
Yes.
So if you have not been in that situation, so that's where having the planning in place, because if you're going to like a national park, there are phone numbers available and ranger numbers available, and other things, landmarks and signage that's available to get you to a place of safety where someone can assist you. But if you have not done that research ahead of time, or you're traveling at night during non-business hours, that could be stressful. If you get to a place with an area where your GPS is not working, your cell phone is down because there's no satellite, and you can't read the signs, that's not a good combination to be in, because then you're just stuck in your vehicle. And if you've never been in that area before, that becomes an unsafe environment, and you don't want that.
Okay, so let's talk more about backup plans and things like that, because emergencies may happen. There may be a crack on the windshield, flat tire, overheated, car or whatnot, or even there may be a medical emergency. There may be a financial emergency, whatever the case may be. Talk about Praise him. Talk about backup plans and things like that while people are traveling.
So when you're traveling, you always want to leave your travel itinerary with somebody that you trust. When I'm traveling personally, I always leave my information with my brother, my son, and overseer. I work closely with the church. He's liable to call me at any time, and he's available to call me when I'm on vacation and traveling. So I give him my itinerary so he knows where I am and how to reach me. You also want to have emergency information. So, you know, if you're going to a new city or a new town, you want to know where is that hospital located? Are there skyscrapers? What does the fire department situation look like? Because there's a difference between a fire department in New York versus a fire department in a very small town of 500 people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what type of roads are you going to be on? Is it highway roads, or are you going to be on a country road, or are you going to be on a highway, um, a mountain road, which is, you know, one way there and one way back?
Mm-hmm.
Having that type of information and understanding. Okay, I'm going to a remote camping area where there's mostly campers and hikers. There is a ranger, and there is a 1-800 number or a direct line to the ranger or the help system. But understand, if I fall and break my leg, I have to be airlifted to the nearest hospital because the nearest hospital is 2 hours away. That's important because that makes a decision on what you're going to do. If you're 2 hours away from a hospital, do you really want to do that dangerous living on the edge activity, or do we just want to come over here and identify the flowers and the birds
Mm-hmm.
and the trees?
Mm-hmm.
You want to do
Mm-hmm.
that. If the nearest hospital is 15 minutes away because you're in
Mm-hmm.
a city and just in a national park, then, you know, you make that decision. Okay, I'm just 15 minutes away. Somebody can get me there. I'm with a group of people. That kind of thing is very organized. It's not just me and my family going rogue. Then you can be
Right.
more risky, more risky.
And I think that's so valuable because thinking about planning for a trip is one thing, then planning for that particular trip is another thing. And but covering a full range of details and items for that trip is essential. So you can say all day, okay, I want to go to another state. And you say, okay, well, I got my car situated. I got the hotel. I have the route I'm taking. I know how long it's going to take for me to get there. I'm good to go. Yeah, that's great on a surface level. Okay, you have to get there. And what if something happens? You may get a mosquito bite from a mosquito that has been on steroids for the past 10 years. And then next thing you know, your whole arm is swollen. So, you know, what kind of actions and measures, that would be terrible. But what kind of measures would you take at that point? So I think that's such a good point to cover. And if anybody has any questions as you watch this, by all means, reach out to Dr. GMP at drgmp.com or send an email to admin at the Titus II, the number 2, living.com, and we'll make sure those questions get before her and she can answer them. So, okay, one last thing regarding travel, and then we'll get into the budgeting check-in. What would be your biggest tip for traveling with a large family? Let's touch that real quickly.
Always have a first aid kit. Always have a roadside assistance kit, which should include blankets and some sort of reflective lighting that you either put out on your car or around your car to let people know. We've all seen when truckers park, they have like those little neon triangles that they put to let you know, I'm over here. You may not be able to see me, but something's over here. Don't come over here. You need to have those. You need to have food that's non-refrigerated. So no mayonnaise, no salad dressing, things of that nature. But you want to have crackers and bars and what do they call them, Nutri-Grain bars or something like that. Some sort of food, not to make them full, but to, if you ever get stuck with a flat tire and roadside assistance can't get to you for an hour or whatever the case may be, nobody can act like they're starving to death.
Mm.
Just chew on this, you'll be all right.
Oh, precious.
So those are the main things. If you do not have AAA and you do not have roadside assistance, usually that costs extra. And depending on how often you travel, it may be cost effective, or you could just get, AAA or a pay as you use type of
Mm.
situation if you don't want to have a full comprehensive plan.
Mm.
Mhm.
Oh, oh, that's getting into the insurance. Oh, we've got to cover that too again because we did a lot of. Oh my, the topics are continuing. Okay, so we'll we'll come back to auto insurance and bundling and oh, okay. All right, we have more to cover. As you all can see, we have so much more to cover. All right, now let's get into the budgeting check-in portion of this conversation. So again, if you have any questions about where you are currently with your budget, by all means reach out as well. If you have any questions on tips or anything that you could do to better organize your budget, by all means reach out. But Dr. GMP, let's talk about going back to those who wing it versus those who plan it. And it's June now. Okay. So for those who wing it, where would you tell them? We're in the month of June. Since we're in the month of June, what would you tell them to kind of get them into a place of planning it versus winging it at this point?
Plan for your next paycheck before you
Hmm.
get it.
Hmm.
You've had 6 months of the working year, and unless you had a recent promotion or something major happened with your income or a job change, you should know every paycheck by now how much you're getting. So before that money hits your bank account, I need you to take that dollar amount that you know you're going to get and put a name for every single dollar, every
Hmm.
single penny, every single everything, whether you're saving it, spending it, going to a bill, going out to eat, going to get Starbucks, whatever the case may be. Every single dollar needs to be accounted for before it hits your account.
Hmm.
Now, whether you stick to it or not, that's a
Okay.
different issue. That's the spiritual side of it. The
Hmm.
first step is you have to put a name to it and put the budget together. The next
Hmm.
step is actually fulfilling it and doing it. Because why go through all the steps to write it down and then not adhere to it? So that's you know you have an issue. If you can't do those two things, pray. Those who plan it get caught by special occasions and holidays. And the summertime, we got Father's Day coming up. So there's extra spending that's done there that's usually not planned for, especially if you have a large family, whether they're getting together or going to this restaurant or chipping in to buy dad this, that, and the third that somebody thought of 2 days before Father's Day. Oh, I saw this wonderful thing on Amazon and we can get it shipped to him direct to his door in 2 days. Okay, and it's $1,000, and you're trying to spread that around the whole family. And that was not in your budget because the planners had already bought their gifts.
Hmm.
But at the same
Hmm.
time, because it's family, they don't want to be left out. So now you got to add this extra money to cover this $1,000 that this person had an idea, and you don't want to look bad because you love daddy. You want to you want to
Ooh.
play along, so you do what you got to do. There's
Hmm.
also 4th of July coming up. So all the picnics,
Hmm.
all the barbecues, all the we just came out of graduation and Mother's Day season. So
Hmm.
planners always have to be adjustable as well. And then there's the whole everybody's doing cruises now. Oh, let's do a cruise in September before the kids go back to school. Good. Okay. All right. So it's that
Hmm.
whole thing of, family pressure, peer pressure, sometimes budgeting pressure, because we all get into those situations sometimes where we feel like we have to flex with our money, where,
Hmm.
it's like, okay, I got it.
Hmm.
I don't want to,
Hmm.
but I got it. And,
Hmm.
it's those types of things. So when you're planning, just make sure you're setting a little bit of aside for, I don't want to say emergencies because they're not emergencies. They're just
Right.
things that come up that socially we feel obligated to participate in. And
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that because that's
Hmm.
society and we love our family and friends and loved ones and things like that happen.
Mhm.
But just be mindful and be diligent.
So even with that, talk about the pressures, whether it's on those who wing it. I know they may not so much experience pressure unless they're applying it to themselves or any other case, but for those that are very disciplined in their budgeting, those who plan it, the types of pressures, because you start talking about them, but the types of pressures that they feel, what are some ways they can get past it if it's a continual thing, a monthly thing. They have their budget set every month, but they're continuously facing those pressures. And how would they overcome them at this point?
You say no.
Okay, that's great.
Unapologetically, yes. That's the only thing that's gonna stop that. You have to come to a point and say, okay, these are my goals, and I want to do this next year. So, a family member wants to go to Europe or go out of the country for 2 weeks. There's a dollar amount attached to that. They have to save up in order to meet that mark. But as a family or friends, if their family and friends are constantly, oh, let's do this and oh, let's do that. And so the planner who has set aside money every paycheck to go towards this goal is now seeing a lesser amount or no amount going into that goal because of all these extra little things. You have to say no. You
Mhm.
have to say no. Same thing with the spontaneous person. They love spontaneous people, love to get invited last minute. They love the thrill of the whole experience of, oh, we're going to do this. Let's get it together. Oh, let's go to Vegas. We're going to go this weekend and we're going to catch the next flight out.
Mhm.
Okay, but if that cuts into your rent or that cuts into your ties or that cuts into, your children getting their back to school clothes because it is summertime and
Mhm.
kids do grow over the summer an astronomical rate. I don't know what it is. I think it's the sun. I don't know what it is. Kids grow crazy during the summertime. But if it
Yes.
cuts into that, you have to say no. That's the only
Mhm.
thing about that. And you can't feel bad about that.
Mhm. And that's a beautiful point there because people can get emotionally entangled and wrapped into the pressures that may be applied to them. It does not mean they have to receive that pressure. It does
Right.
not mean they have to accept it. It just there may be pressure applied by family, friends, and loved ones and things like that, but they don't have to accept it. So even like you said, just go ahead and say no. But if they're emotionally attached to where the pressure is applied and they emotionally respond, okay, well, just to keep this person happy or to keep my family happy or to keep my friends as my friends, then I have to, because I don't want anybody angry with me, I don't want anybody upset with me. But you're doing so at the
Mhm.
detriment of your own success and your own progression financially. So even when you have your goals and things like that, if you're giving in to these pressures from these other people in your life, are they going to be the ones to pull you out of debt? Are they going to be the ones to write the check to the student loan? Are they going to be the ones, things like that? So talk about that even more, because that could be very detrimental to them reaching their own personal financial goals.
Yes, and family and friends know how to push the buttons. They do. They will say mean things to you like, "Oh, you're no fun. Oh, you're a tightwad. You never spend any money. You never go anywhere or do anything. When are you gonna live life? All you do is go to work and go to church and go."
Mm-hmm.
They say all kinds of things, but you just have to trust in the Lord and stick and ask them, "Are you going? If I spend this money now, are you going to help me in a time where I need to? Or are you going to invest in what I'm trying to accomplish in this goal because I'm sacrificing my contribution to it now?" And so when you have those conversations, having an accountability partner is also helpful, because
Yes.
women, especially, 90% of marketing is marketing to women. We get caught
Mm-hmm.
up in sales and
Mm-hmm.
buy one, get ones. And, oh, this is 75% off. Or, oh, this is this 1 year thing that's happening right now. Oh, we can go to Spain for a third of the cost. It's only going to cost $3,000 per person, but it's
Ugh.
normally $10,000 per person, and it
Oh,
includes flight and hotel
oh,
and food. And it just goes on and on and on and on. But realistically, do you have that $3,000 per person and you're a family of four? Do you
That's
really have $12,000 just sitting there waiting for a vacation?
mm,
It's not a good deal if it's not good
mhm.
for you financially.
Mm. And that's so valuable. It's so important to evaluate realistically evaluate. And I think that's why we're really pushing this financial check-in progress report or status report, so to speak, for the month of June, because we really want to make sure people are taking the time to evaluate where they are realistically, with their finances, with their goals, with their desires to travel or their desires to get out of debt, whatever the case may be, and
Mhm.
making sure that there is proper systems in place that will be implemented for those that wing it and for those that plan it, that they're staying on task, staying the course, staying on target to making sure they're reaching their monthly goals. Because there could be a lot of variables to throw a person off. And if they do get thrown off or get trapped into the pressures and things like that, making sure that they have the encouragement necessary, the resources, the tools, and the wisdom that's necessary to come out of that trap. Okay, I'll call it the pressure. And I know, I know, I know. Oh, amen.
But that's the beauty of being disciplined, though, because whether you are a spontaneous person or you're a planner, if you have your priorities in order, you're going to take care of your necessities first. So
Mhm,
the whole point of budgeting is to make sure that you have money left over to save or do what you will with if you want to
mhm,
enjoy yourself. If
mhm.
all your bills are paid at the beginning of the month and you have the month left over or an extra paycheck left over,
Mhm.
it's okay to be spontaneous. It's okay to plan. Just don't spend it all. So if you have an
Right.
extra paycheck a month, plan for it, but just don't
Mhm.
spend it all. Save some of it, save half of it, save over half of it. Do what you can. But say, hey, I got an extra $100. I can go crazy on this $100. But if you have a
Right.
whole paycheck, you know,
Mhm.
just take a piece. We don't have to
Mhm.
make it rain. We don't have to do all the worldly things. You just do a little bit.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, that's Lord. Oh God. Don't make it rain, people.
Don't
Okay,
make
it's all right.
it rain.
Don't make it
Just do
rain.
a little
Don't make
bit.
don't be out there drizzling. Don't be out there drizzling. It's- Let the sun shine in. We thank you. Get your stuff together. Okay, all right, y'all. That was fun. That was fun. We're gonna go ahead and land this plane because we're gonna start cutting up in a minute. We try to behave ourselves on these episodes. we try. We try to behave ourselves. That's why we do them on recordings. Because if we get live, it's gonna be a whole other story. So, all right. With that being said, you all by now should know how to reach Dr. DMP. If you have any questions, you know the email address for the Titus II Living podcast. By all means, reach out. We do want to hear from you. Put your questions in the comments if necessary. Share this with your family, friends, loved ones, and your enemies. We do want to make sure that people all over the world, one, are being made aware of there's people out there that have your back when it comes to your finances and getting yourself in order, and it will be done biblically. It'll be biblically sound and with the grace of God. So we love you. We love you very, very much in the name of Jesus. And as always, stay praying, stay believing, stay Titus II Living.